Alright, so I've been talking about the Asus Rog Ally X for quite a few days now. It's something I'm really getting more and more excited about, especially with the fact that the NPU might just be exclusive to the Xbox Ally variant, the Xbox Ally X. Now, Lenovo did announce their go-to variant, and it's apparently going to have the Z2 Extreme, but there seems to be two versions of the Z2 Extreme. You've got the Z2 Extreme and the Z2 Extreme AI, and the AI version is the one that's going to be in the Xbox Ally X. Now, obviously, to me, that's a big selling point. The Xbox Ally X means the Xbox Ally X means that it's going to be the Xbox Ally X means they're going to have an NPU, which is basically hardware accelerated AI, which, as we know through other means, is a very, very beneficial thing. Now, if this is going to be exclusive to that device, it is going to have a leg up, regardless of how big their screens are, over the other devices and be able to push more in terms of a performance bump. It's just really that simple. It's not going to be handled on the software side. It's going to be handled on the hardware side, and that is always a good thing because it relieves stress on the CPU and the GPU. Now, well, the APU, as you know. Now, obviously, PlayStation fans have been forever saying that it's not an Xbox, it's a PC, but they can't find a lane on what they want, and obviously Nibs over here is basically a culprit of that too. He can't decide whether it's an Xbox or a PC. They scream from the rooftops it's not a PC, but when it comes down to it, they are going to compare it to everything else, which at that point, why not compare the Lenovo or anything else? Or why are you singling out the Xbox Ally? Because I guess it is an Xbox. I mean, they can't pick a lane, so I guess it's an Xbox depending on what day they decide to wake up on and whether it supports their narrative. I don't know. But we're going to go through this because the Series S also has been having a lot of problems. Well, at least in their eyes, and the industry keeps saying that the Series S is going to, has been holding the gaming industry back, has been causing problems for Xbox. But now we can see through this that Sony is slowly but surely following Xbox. I mean, it's what they do. Sony has always, for years now, followed Xbox. They kind of remind me of the Samsung, Android, and the overall Apple experience. Android does it first. Apple then looks at what Android did, waits a number of years, and then refines it, and then releases it to a much more welcoming audience. Look at this, the flip phones. Android, when they first came out with their flip phones with Samsung and everyone else, they were pretty badly in a bad place. Now they're actually in a good place. Apple is also releasing their first flip phone after all these years, priced at $2,000, but it's probably going to work a lot better than when Android first launched it, and first impressions matter. And this is where Sony has generally excelled in, because they wait and wait and wait, see where all the flaws are, and then work on something that's thing. However, now I will preface this by saying Moore's Law did backtrack from this entirely after saying this, and he kind of released a tweet correcting himself, saying that the PS6S is his opinion that he thinks is going to happen. I call BS on that. He must have seen something, heard something, that you're not magically going to make this up on the fly. But because of the negative feedback that he got, and obviously attacking Xbox has propelled his channel a little bit more, and now obviously the news of this probably hurt him a little bit, so he immediately came out and said, look, I've not seen any documentation of this. I don't believe a second of that. If you're going to come out and make statements like this, it means that you've probably done your homework and you've seen something, heard something, or someone's mentioned something. The reality is you've got reason to believe it exists. So to try and now dismiss it entirely and use that as a scapegoat is, in my opinion, wrong. So until it's officially confirmed that it's not going to be a thing from Sony, we can assume that it's going to be a thing. But Sony is supposed to have 3 SKUs. Now remember, all this time that the Series S was holding gaming back, but the PS6S, the Canis APU, is going to be a small form factor console. Now with the rising cost and standard of living crisis, which is probably going to go on for another 10 years, having a console at $300 to $400 is probably a smart thing to do. It's going to attract those people that can't afford the luxurious higher end models. You're also going to have a handheld, which will be a dockable handheld priced around $400 to $500. Again, $500 for a handheld is pretty decent. And finally, you're going to have the PlayStation 6, the high performance console, around $549.99 and $699. Now, obviously, I think it's going to be on the upper end, unless it's a really, really weak console, and you know they don't really need to price it enough because the parts in there are super cheap. But we all know that no one is going to actually take a loss on the hardware anymore. So if they're going for a really high performance console, I don't even think those numbers are correct. But for the purpose of this video, let's assume that they are, which not in a million years. You can see over here, he says, in a twist of irony, after all the noise around Xbox Series S is holding back the gen, it appears PlayStation may be doing its own Series S. And he's not very happy about it with the emoji. Now, Nibs has been one of the he's been extremely vocal about the Series S and the problems it's causing the industry. And at the end of the day, when you make a game, you will make it for the lowest denominator. Now, developers have been screaming high and loud how the Series S is a problem and the GPU is a problem and all of this. So I do wonder, now that Sony is doing this, is this going to be a problem? I'm already seeing people in the comments pushing the goalposts and saying, well, the PlayStation is a popular platform, so it won't be a problem for them. It's going to sell millions. They're going to sell buckets of these Series S variants. And so it won't hold the industry back. I really do wonder how these people wake up in the morning and still remember how to breathe, because they think that that's actually how technology works. But, the reality is, when you make a game, you are going to hold, it's going to be held by the lowest denominator. Now, multi-platform games will probably support weaker platforms. So those probably won't be a problem to a certain extent, but it's the exclusives that will be. Those that are specifically designed for the PlayStation hardware, even though not many are these days, they're all built with PC in mind. But let's just, for argument's sake, assume that there is going to be more PlayStation specific games coming, like say potentially Wolverine, but that's already in development for the PS5. So who knows? Maybe there'll be other games down the road. Maybe Uncharted like 7 or something, or Gran Turismo 8, or who knows? Maybe a new Bloodborne. Okay, don't attack me. It's never happening. But you get the drill. Those games will be built around the PlayStation 6S, and then they will be improved upon. You will never fully utilize the hardware of the PS6. And that's the problem here. And this is what he's actually upset about. And so in theory, yes, it will hold the gaming industry back. It will hold creative, ideas back. Will this be good for consumers? Absolutely. Will it be good for the enthusiasts? Not at all. Because they want the best performance for the games that can push the boundaries. And if the PS6S is real, then those boundaries will never be pushed. And that's just the reality. You can have a £20,000 PS6. It doesn't make a difference. You're still going to be restricted by the PS6S. And I do not foresee Sony turning around to people and saying, hey, if you buy the PS6S, you won't be able to play every game. Because at that point, the PS6S dies instantly. Game over. Now, maybe they're not going to be silly enough to say they're going to go full parity, but then they're going to have to explain what that means, because if they're not careful, they will have a lawsuit on their hand, and they want to avoid that as well. So going down the parity route is the safest option, which again is where the problems here arise. Now, I'm skipping past all of this jargon because I don't care about that. The handheld will also easily outperform the ROG Xbox Ally X and utterly destroy the Switch 2. Now, I don't get it. The handheld itself is basically going to play PS5 and PS6 games, right? So essentially, it's just a mobile version of the hardware. Why are you even comparing it to a PC? So is he now confirming that the ROG Xbox Ally X is in fact an Xbox? Because at this point, why isn't he comparing the Lenovo or the MSI Claw or the WinPD or the One X player? You know, all of these devices. Why isn't he comparing those? Why is he singling out the ROG Xbox Ally X outside of the console warring side? Because we all know he lives for the console warring. You know, that, you know, no one can, he'll never escape those allegations. By even adding in the ROG Xbox Ally X here, not only is he console warring, but he is agreeing that the ROG Xbox Ally X is an Xbox. By including it in this, he is making that admission that it is an Xbox. So regardless of what he says going forward or what anyone else says, they are agreeing it is an Xbox because they are using this as a way to justify the hardware that they're buying. Now, while potentially being cheaper than both, substantially cheaper than the Ally X, all the while the ROG Xbox Ally X will play all of their games, right? It's going to play all PC games. It's going to play Xbox games. It's going to play PlayStation games. And at some point, eventually, Nintendo are going to do the same. And at least that's my opinion. 2028, that is the date I'm calling. They're going to go and do some PC games as well. But obviously, they'll probably be like the Xbox Rog Ally XXX or whatever that's going to be called by then. The point I'm making here is they are specifically outlining a machine that is way more capable, can play way more games, has way more versatility, is basically a Windows device, to a device that's stonewalled around 2 platforms for games. And on top of that, he is acknowledging that the ROG Xbox Ally X, and this is 100% unrefutable at this point, because he is specifically outlining this one. I've listed there in a minute ago probably about 10 different devices, but by him outlining this one, he is without any refutable point acknowledging that the ROG Xbox Ally X is an Xbox, because that's why he's using it as an excuse, as an example. Unfortunately, and this is the kicker, it still means that the PS6 generation will essentially be held back by PS5-like performance the entire generation, and that is unrefutable. Just like the Series X games could have pushed ahead, the Series S, in essence, regardless of how good that little box is, the parity on there meant that you could only do so much, and you couldn't really fully utilize the Series X's full potential because it was always held back by the Series S. Now, that isn't to say the Series S is a bad machine. It's a great machine, but the parity is what was holding it back, right? If you know, you couldn't have larger maps because it just wouldn't fit. You couldn't exceed certain limitations because the machine itself had limitations. This is exactly what's going to happen with the PlayStation 6S, and obviously this disappoints him, and rightfully so, because he's been complaining about it for so long. I'm happy to see the same energy being happened there. Like the Series S, the PS6 will be the lowest common denominator that studios making games for PS6 or next gen only have to design around, which is basically what I just said. So you build it around that machine, and then you upgrade the graphics and the frames and everything else for the higher performing one. And so that's the problem when you have a really low denominator. Even more ironic is that Xbox Next Gen does not have a lower performance SKU based on leaks, only one high performance model, because Microsoft has learned from what they were doing. And then he goes, even though devs may still design around the much weaker ROG Xbox Ally, again, he's basically saying that the Xbox Rog Ally is an Xbox. If the statement over here wasn't confirming that in a irrefutable way, he is confirming that it is an Xbox, this now confirms that he is saying it is an Xbox, and it is an Xbox within the ecosystem. So all this talk about, oh, the older ROGs can do it, the Lenovo's can do what that's doing and all this, it doesn't matter. There's now confirmation here that they are accepting that this is an Xbox. But the difference between this one and the other handhelds is quite a bit. Not only does this have its own MPU, the Xbox Ally X, which means it can do more, but it is a PC in the end, right? We all acknowledge that it is a PC first and foremost. But the NPU on there means that it's going to be AI powered, which means AI upscaling. It's going to have a lot more, oomph to performance. The bump to performance is going to be quite a bit. Just look at ray tracing, for example, where you got software ray tracing and hardware ray tracing. I know it's not exactly the same, but to give you a contrasting way, the 3090 Ti, which is a software ray traced graphics card, on Indiana Jones will get about 30 to 40 frames per second with full ray tracing. The 4090, on the other hand, will give you 60 plus because it's hardware ray traced. So having it hardware is a big deal. And this Z2 Extreme AI is supposedly supposed to be only on the ROG Xbox Ally X. The normal Ally won't have it. But they're acknowledging that, they're going to have to design around this. But what he's not realizing is that the ROG Xbox Ally X is going to be pretty powerful. And so while they'll have all those AI capabilities, it's also got 24 gigs of RAM, which means the limitations that the Series S had will no longer be there. The limitations of non-AI with AI will no longer be there. So even though he's trying to console war here to try and cope and try and provide himself with some kind of reassurance that it's not so bad, it really is. And this wasn't the win or the reassurance that he wanted, because this machine here, this weaker ROG Xbox Ally, will just be more capable because it has more resources at its helm. And with Windows taking less 2 gigabytes of RAM already, you've even got more access to RAM and more access to resources than you ever did before. So again, that's really not the win that he wanted. Though at least, unlike Series S, there will be copious amounts of RAM and hopefully fewer bottlenecks. So here he is now hoping that what he was complaining about and trying to belittle the ROG Xbox Ally, he's now trying to say that's actually a good thing, and he's hoping that that won't be. Can you see how the double standards fly from one pendulum to the other when he's talking about PlayStation and Xbox? And the guy, I know he is very, very data orientated, and that's fine. But if he did his data orientation without actually console warring and trying to always stick in that one over Xbox, his data would be unbiased and would actually be a good read. But the fact that he is inherently biased towards one platform just clearly shows you that you can't really read anything he writes knowing that it's going to be an objective piece of writing. When he says the data and the facts don't lie, they absolutely do when you manipulate them and twist them. Prime example, the PS5 Pro is $700 or £700, but the Xbox Series X is $450. But the limited edition one, which the only difference being it gives you 1 extra terabyte, there's no performance increase, is an extra $100, right? At least at the time. Now it's 500 and it's 600. But he compares the 600 model to that. Why are you doing that? Why don't you add the drive onto the PS5 Pro to make it 800? Show the difference. But the PS5 Pro is actually more powerful. But he, in his post, says that you can't compare the base model Series X because it's on par with the PS5. So isn't the special edition Xbox on par with the PS5? Can you see how he manipulates the data to push his agenda? That's all I'm saying. The two machines, the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series X Special Edition, the Galaxy Edition, are exactly the same, barring the additional 1 terabyte drive. There is no performance gain in difference. They are identical. So how can one be comparable to the PS5 and the other one be comparable to the PS5 Pro. Unless you've got brain damage or you're suffering from some kind of psychosis that's constantly feeding this information to you to lie to everyone, I don't understand how that variation can work. But this is his words, folks, not mine. It's one for one and one for the other. You can't make this shit up. But that's basically where we're at right now with this. And you can clearly see that though it was actually a decent read, outside of the console warring, the PlayStation 6, if this S variation mechanics is true, and I do believe that it's more likely to be true than not, Moore's Law wouldn't just come out with it out of thin air and say it is a thing, and then after getting a lot of pushback, then turns around and goes, well, it's just something I've thought about and I'm speculating. It doesn't add up, right? Because you would have said that during the actual video. Why is Sony doing this? Because it's the smart play. And we are getting diminishing results as we go forward with our graphical capabilities. And so having different entry points to your console ecosystem is a smart play here. But it will hold gaming back. There's no denying it. If you buy the high-end model of the PS6, you know immediately that the PS6S or even the PS6, the handheld, is going to be the lowest denominator, meaning that whatever they can handle will be the maximum output you can possibly get that will be able to go to your PS6. You'll get better graphics and better frames, but that's really where it's going to stop. You're not going to get additional features that you possibly could, just like the current situation is with the Series S and X. It's just the way it works. You're always limited by the lowest denominator. So, where does that leave us? PlayStation is finally on the road to continuing copying Xbox. Maybe the following generation, they're going to just release one hardware on its own, or, you know, maybe in the future, and this is where I see Microsoft going as well, and I see a lot of things going this way, everything is going to become a small factor handheld that will become dockable. Something that the PS6 handheld is looking at right now, and something that already the PC handhelds can do. I don't know, folks. This was actually a decent read outside of the console warring. I've really appreciated it. The kind of try to push back on the Canis after openly saying that it's real to it's just speculation doesn't add up to me. I appreciate the same energy by Nibs over here. That was totally appreciated, because at the end of the day, if nothing else, that's real. But, you know, one thing that's irrefutable at this point, the fact that they specifically want to target the ROG Xbox Ally X, you're hearing it here. He has confirmed with irrefutable, points, ROG Xbox Ally X is an Xbox. Even though it can't directly play Xbox games, the fact that they're comparing it to this and are so scared of this handheld device, which from just the exclusive features alone on this device, including the NPU, which could be exclusive only to the ROG Xbox Ally X, the Z2 Extreme AI, this could be a really big game-changing handheld. I'm really excited for this now, and that really is becoming a selling point for me. But even here, when they start comparing it around a weaker Xbox Ally, the weaker Xbox Ally is just basically a ROG. It's not got the NPU, it's not got the benefits of the Xbox Rog Ally X. It might have a couple of those features in there, but you know, it's basically an Asus ROG. It's an updated Asus ROG. That's it. So you can already see that they're trying to say that this is an Xbox. And then if they're saying it, I guess we can too. It's fair game at the end of the day, right? Anyway, folks, that's the video. I just saw this and I thought I'd break it down because it's a long read and a lot of people won't probably want to read it. Now, the hardware specs are pretty decent. I'm not going to... If they're real or not, I don't know. We'll see in time. But the fact that they're looking at having a weaker model PlayStation 6S is interesting. The one thing that they cried about that they didn't want, it's almost like everything they want from Sony, Sony is doing the complete opposite. They don't want Sony to port their games to PC, they ported their games to PC. They don't want Sony to port their games to Xbox, they're porting their games to Xbox. They don't want Series S variants because it holds gaming back, so they're releasing a Series S variant. What can I say, folks? It is what it is. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion. And Nebs, thank you for the post. It was a good read. I appreciated it. Outside of the console warring side, the emissions were great as well. But, you know, I appreciate the same energy. I really do. Good post, my friend. Right, that's it. Peace out, folks, and remain legend.